We thank you for joining us again for another new episode. And just before we begin, I'd like us all to introduce ourselves again, just in case some of you have forgotten who we are. And we'll just start with Auntie Etta, please.
Hi, I'm Pete Mbulavinaka to you all. I'm Ineta Benava and I'm known as Auntie Etta at Homes of Hope.
Naka.
Bula Vinaka to everyone. I'm Mary and I'm part of the group today.
Bulavinaka, I'm Linny Roche, and I'm known as Auntie Linny.
And I am Inise, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in and watching us on this new episode again. And to Nana Mary, who's joining us for the first time. Today we're going to talk about family. Well, as family and relationships with each other. As we all know, families are the foundation. If you have a healthy family, you have a functioning society. So I won't take much of your time, Nana Mary, and ask that, and it's going to be an interesting one to learn from each other on this episode. Vinaka.
Thank you so much, Inise. As I'm speaking from my experience, I see family as something that is the foundation of all relationships, whether be at home or out there in the community. And I'm speaking from experience being a little kid, remarried to an individual. I find this relationship as something can be very challenging to others, but I find it smooth because of my faith. And that maybe doesn't work with others. As I said, this is the platform whereby children learn from us through our interactions on a daily basis, whereby they are taken care of, given the support that they need emotionally or physically. But all in all, as you rightly said, the better our relationship, the more opportunities a child can survive and thrive.
Yeah. And I think through all the years that Homes of Hope has been around and all the girls that have come through and the families that we've spoken to, the girls that have been the most resilient and the most quick to heal from their trauma were the girls who had a stable family where there was a relationship. It wasn't just a dictator father, dictator mother, but there was a back and forth where that child knew that the parent would be there to throw the rugby ball, or that they sat together as a family. What have you seen, Etta?
Thank you, Mary and Lini. A good parent and child relationship, you can just get up.
Yeah.
Having to work at Homes of Hope with the survivors that we have at Homes of Hope, you can just quickly pick it up. Having to have one that has a very good foundational relationship at home and one that came from a fragmented relationship. And it takes more effort to work with those that come from those kind of background that has a fragmented family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we all know, we
Yes.
all know that with the girls that we work with, one of the common factors that we see are broken families. So family is really important in the growth of any child.
Yes.
Yes.
It is, as I said, a relationship you can look at it from in two ways. Whether the background really counts in the upbringing, from a fragmented one and a one who's been there with the parents' solid foundation. And this can, it's a challenge in itself because when they come to us, we have to look of ways whereby we have to really take into account their backgrounds. And that is where it's important to be talking to parents on how well or how best these people's or children's need be met in the way that fits them. Because I'm speaking from experience, like I come from a Itoki, totally different from the Indo-Fijian culture. And I have to hide, as a parent, hide my emotional when I look at my children doing the things we hardly do in a Itoki background. meaning in the sense that they have to work before they go to school. The small work that they do, go to the farm, get a pineapple and go. For me, that was something that I hide because I don't want to get the children know that my emotional, and I don't want to see them affected at that time. But as I said, while the family is important, I don't want to use that as something that covers me from being like a mother, getting the second husband. I want them to be as they are in that context, not hiding what I to use, but I use my faith to bring us together, but not to hide.
And I think you brought up an interesting point now, Mary, in that, you know, if a family breaks apart, you still can have relationship and there still can be healthy children. So in your situation, you have a broken first marriage, but then you remarried, and that second husband accepted your children as his own. You accepted his children as your own. You became a blended family because you had relationship.
Yes,
You gave
definitely.
belonging, you gave acceptance,
Yes.
you gave love.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, we, especially within the church community, we put so much condemnation on divorce or separation. But in reality, children can thrive amidst that as long as even one parent or one other adult in their life has relationship that's stable and healthy, so it can continue on. So there's no condemnation for where any of us are at, because God is God, and God can work through that as long as we're doing our part for relationship.
Mm.
So what would be some practical, because we want to give you practical ideas. What would be some,
I just want to add on
Yeah.
to that,
Good.
Auntie Lynn, you know, having a secure attachment.
Yeah.
Before I joined Homes of Hope, I was a teacher by profession, and I taught for almost 3 decades. And you know, being a teacher, and I know teachers would agree with me, you sort of develop that skill. You can just look at a child and you can tell he or she did not have breakfast this morning. You can just look at her countenance, her appearance, her physical appearance, and you can just pick it up. And something that I have realized in my years as a teacher, you know, those that come from a solid foundation, as you two have shared, you know, their cognitive behavior,
Yeah.
the social aspect of their lives, and also they turn to thrive academically.
Yes.
And I totally agree with what you two have shared, you know, having that strong foundation. The
Yes.
parent and child relationship, that attachment has to be there.
and that takes time.
Yes, it does.
Yes,
take
it does.
You can't work all day long, throw some food at your kids, say goodnight, and call that a relationship. It takes time to
Yes.
nurture that.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, just from an experience, because I'm working closely with the ECE teachers or the early childhood education teachers. One of the things that one teacher shared, Madam, one from the child, Madam, why do you say good morning to me all the time when I don't really hear that from my home, either from mom or dad, or even to be for us at home to be said a good morning. But here I come, I see, I hear you, good morning every day. That gives me some kind of belonging to you, to this school. And I think that most of in our relationships, when it comes to the child, a parent-child or adult-child relationship, these are some of the basic things that children miss, and they pick up from others. That even a good morning matters to a child, as Madam Etta rightly said. That attachment, sense of belonging can only be felt when things are starting from the home within. And I think this morning, if some of the parents are listening in from the community, so maybe the first thing to start this morning, say today in this episode, to say good morning to your children, and above all, say good morning to your husband, because that makes it
And wife.
And wife, yes, you rightly said. So everybody, so when you say good morning in the first day, it makes your day.
Yeah. And so I think it'd be good, just because we want to give practical examples and advice. So what would be some other ways that you can build relationship with your children. In my case, grandchildren. What are some ways that we can do that?
Well, being a parent, you have to be a good listener, first of all.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to
And
develop
time.
your good
Yes.
listening skills.
Yes.
I think time is very important, quality time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's especially for working parents. You most of the time you go home with all that stress and everything. You take it right home, so you can't function. You can't switch hats from being a working person to a parent.
Right.
You know, you
Yes.
walk in with all that baggage, and then you walk out again with it the next day. I think quality time is important. as
And
well.
so what does quality mean to you?
No work at home.
Yes.
I try. That's what I try. No work at home or whatever else.
What about the phone?
That?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our line of work, the phone is
Yeah,
like
yes.
we're constantly 24/7.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just for a while, even if you give 45 minutes of quality time, no phone, no work, just you feel good. Yes, you feel fulfilled that you were able to spend time with your child or your spouse.
Yes.
So I believe quality time is important.
Yes, definitely. Not only your quality time, but understanding children and believing them. You know, we build that trust within
Yes.
on a daily basis, and not only when they are good,
Mm.
or when you want other things to be done, and you use the children on that context. But listening to children, like Madam Mehta said, to be a good listener. Yes, spend quality time, and yes, to really believe and trust your children.
And you raised, this is probably one of the keys. One of the main benefits of establishing relationship is that alongside of it comes trust. Trust is built. And so when that child has trust in you that you're going to actually be there and that they're the most important thing at that moment, your phone's away, everything else, all the other distractions, then that trust is built. So that if something ever happens to that child, and in our line of work it'd be forced sex, then they have that trust built where the gate is open and they can go access that parent and know that the parent would be there for them, not just brush them aside.
Mm.
Sometimes I think of myself as a parent.
Yeah.
I can say I'm struggling to raise 6 children.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to be having a very supportive husband. And we tend to raise our children the way we were raised.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that's something that I still struggle with today.
Yes.
Yes.
Having to raise them the way I was raised myself.
Yes. It's really hard to get away from it unless and until that you have a lot of attend to the workshop that we have, the awarenesses that Homes of Hope is creating out there in the community. And that is why we are asking those who are listening or watching us today that we are there for them. And parenting is not a job that has to be by alone. Every parent is the same. And we should feel like those who are listening in and in the communities to feel that they are not alone. We are together in this journey.
Yeah.
And you can't, I see you can't really have that relationship with your child if you and your spouse are not solid. You have to, only then will your family be healthy. Like we come from Itoki families, we were brought up that way. We belong, we're the homemakers.
Right.
We're homemakers. So as time has gone and through education and awareness and especially our line of work, we've got to understand that the two will have to work together to have a solid family, a healthy family.
Yes.
So you can't really raise your child if you're not, on the same thing as your spouse. Understanding that I'll be tired, you step up for me. We cover each other's back. You have my back, And that's what I think. It's quality time, and you have to have a healthy relationship with your spouse to be able to raise.
I agree. Before we close, I agree so much. However, for those single parent families
Right.
who don't have the luxury of, hey, I'm tired, can you take over? Your children can still be so healthy and
Yes.
solid. It's just we pray God's grace
Yes.
to you
Yes.
to do
And
that.
I guess
all alone.
maybe just to add on to
Yeah.
that, and maybe before we end, it's very important as a parent, whether you're a solo parent or you are a parent, it's very important to understand the ages and the stages
Yes.
of your
Yes.
child.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
would really help.
Yes.
That helped me,
Yes.
you know, to understand the different ages they're in and the
Yes.
stages of development.
Because of expectations.
expectations.
Yes.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
much.
Totally.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all from us today. We thank you for taking the time to tune into this episode, and we hope that you'll get to watch more of our videos. Remember that Homes of Hope is also on Facebook, and for more information on toll-free numbers, you'd find them in the description notes that are accompanied with the videos. From myself and the wonderful ladies that are here, more there, and we'll see you later.
Okay.
Benangka.